Hello to all of my peeps. Thank you for joining me today from my chair. Special edition episode number 4. Yes, we started these special edition episodes several weeks ago, and let's call this one special edition episode number 4. We've had the wonderful privilege of hearing a 3-part lesson from my bestie, Miss Joanna Burt. But we're not done with the special edition episodes. This is a very, very dear friend of mine, Miss Sarah Glover. She is a missionary with First Bible International. She served in Papua New Guinea for 12 and a half years. Yes, when I talk about my missions trip to Papua New Guinea, that's who I went to see. Mm-hmm. Yes, and we had such a good time. Oh my goodness. She had to leave the village there in Papua New Guinea because of violence. It broke out. And it made it to where that she could not go back to her village. It was very unsafe to do that. She now travels within the 1040 window, ministering in the exact same way, much the same way that she did there in Kunai. She misses Papua New Guinea, but First Bible is helping her, and she's going out and traveling and ministering within that 1040 window. She's spending a few days with me while she travels and visits churches here in the South. We're like her hub for the South, so I want her anytime she can come through here. I asked her if she would be so gracious to record some of her amazing lessons for my YouTube, my peeps. I'm so excited about that. She agreed. She has prepared 3 different lessons, 3 different truths, different applications, and all 3 of them are from her time in Papua New Guinea. And illustrations, it's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. So thank you, Sarah, for taking time to prepare these and to teach them to my peeps here from my chair. Now, without further ado, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I told Joanna when we did this, I'm not going to say anything, which is very. Do you know how hard that is? That is so difficult for me to do, not to say anything
when I see it.
and go back and forth. But I did good. I did very well with Joanna's, and hopefully I can do well with yours too. I feel like I need a piece of duct tape or something so I don't chime in or say something, because I enjoy talking with both of them so much. And but I'm going to be quiet. I might nod my head and do something, you know, that I'm enjoying it. And I know what she's going to teach, and I'm so excited about it. And you're going to be as well. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Please teach us something from God's Word.
All right. Well, it is so exciting to get to actually be here today with you and on this YouTube channel. It's something that I watch every week myself.
Yes,
I don't
you
know
do.
if I've seen how many episodes are there?
The last one I recorded personally that aired this morning. Again, we're recording these. See, I'm talking. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No,
But you
it's
asked the question. You asked the
Sorry,
question. We're recording these way before they're going to be aired, because this is a very busy graduation season for us. So the last one that aired this morning was episode 171. But several more will have played before this one gets shown. So
Sure. So I've been watching, really from the beginning, I think, pretty much.
think so.
I don't know. Maybe there's a couple that I missed because we didn't have internet or something and I couldn't catch up on them. But it's a blessing to get to be able to just share today on your channel here, like this, your YouTube channel, from my chair. And so I wanted to share a story this morning from my time in Papua New Guinea. So following God's will for my life, I'm a missionary, and so following God's will for my life has put me on airplanes a lot of times. I've spent a lot of my life on airplanes. I have so many airplane stories, airport stories, all of those things. And so I have flown on the big jumbo jets that make like the 16, 17-hour flights across the pond. We like to say we jumped the pond. And I've flown in those things, and then I've flown in the little Cessnas that can seat like 4 to 6 people.
Okay.
And up in the mountains, and they turn 12-hour hikes into 8-minute flights. And so I've kind of flown in all of those things. And even though I fly a lot and I have a lot of experience at it, I still don't really love turbulence. You?
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, oh, that's right. I forgot you liked it. Okay, I don't really like turbulence. No matter how much I've flown, like, I just want everything to be nice and calm. I don't want all the bumps and everything. I want to sit in that plane and not actually feel like I'm in a plane. we used to, one of my friends in Papua New Guinea, one of my coworkers, he was actually a pilot over there for many years. And we would get up in the air and he'd be like, he'd like look around. He's like, "Do y'all want to have some fun?" I was like, "No, I don't want to have fun. I want it to be boring. I want it to be flat and just like, it doesn't matter that I know that like turbulence or like potholes in the sky. I'm like, it doesn't matter. If we go over a pothole in the ground's right there. If we go over a pothole in the sky, there's a lot of stuff underneath of it." And so anyway, I would prefer a smooth flight to a bumpy flight any day. Well, one time when I was flying in PNG, we flew in these small planes, and a lot of times in these planes you would sit there, and it's not like, you know, the planes, the Delta or United or whatever, you go get on and fly today where, you know, you never even see the pilot. Like, we would be sitting here, and then right in front of us would be the pilot right there, just a small plane. Sometimes they'd even put us in the co-pilot seat, and they'd be like, "No, don't touch anything." I'm like, "Trust me, I'm not touching a thing in here. I do not want anything to happen to here." So one day we were taking off from the airstrip on the side of our mountain, and we had to hike from our house over to that airstrip, and then I think we were flying out to get to supplies, and I think we were headed to the capital city, which was about an hour and a half flight. And as in that day, I was in the back of the plane, so there was maybe about 8 other people in the plane, but I was in the very back, and we were flying towards the capital city that day, and it was kind of a bumpy flight. Too bumpy for me. We were on a plane called the Kodiak, and it was kind of bumpy, enough so that I was getting a little bit nervous. And so I'm sitting in the back of the plane, and my eyes were closed. I don't know why, because that seems more spiritual or whatever, to have your eyes closed or something. I'm not really sure. But I just didn't want to see what was happening and stuff. And I was back there in the back of this plane, and I'm reminding God that, "God, remember, I'm a missionary. You don't want me to kill me." And then I was reminding God about my mom and how she would be so sad if I died that day. And so I was just praying all these amazing, life-preserving prayers. And I was sure that it was my prayers that was keeping us aloft up there in the air that day. Well, I'm praying these prayers, and we're flying along, bumping, we were more bumping along than flying along, it felt like to me. And all of a sudden, in the middle of these prayers, I smelled something.
Oh.
And no, it wasn't jet fuel or anything like that, but I smelled a banana. And I don't know if you like to smell bananas or not. Are you a banana person?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind, I'm not going to open that one. you open it.
Yeah, I'll open it.
And so I smelled a banana. And I was like, what in the world? Why am I smelling this banana? Yeah, you smell it.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting in the back of this plane, and I'm smelling this banana, and I was like, what in the world is this about? And I leaned over to the side, and I looked up at our pilots, and our pilots were eating lunch up there. And I was like, what in the world? Like, how could they be thinking about food at a time like this? We're about ready to crash or something, and they're up there eating their lunch, you know? And I was like, oh my goodness, what are they doing? And you know what then I started to do? I just laughed at myself. Because I was like, if my pilots weren't worried about the plane crashing, why did I have to be worried? They were up there eating lunch. Why should I be worried if they were okay with everything? But really, God reminded me that day that there are times in my life where I feel like everything is out of control, and like that I'm probably going to crash and burn like at any time soon. Yeah. But God is always in control. And that day on that plane, those pilots were in charge of that plane, not me. And in my life, God is in control of my life and not me. And so if God's not worried, and I don't think God ever gets worried, then I don't have to be worried either. Well, but how do we know for sure that God is in control of our lives? Is it just that we feel like it? I don't think so, because sometimes I actually don't feel like God is in control of my life. If I go just based on my feelings, it feels like some days, like there's no way he could be in control of this. But we don't just go based on what we feel, we go based on his word and the promises that he's given us in his word. And so we know that God is in control because of all these promises that he's given us in his word. But you know what? Sometimes we have the circumstances of our life around us. And we have God's promises here, and we have our circumstances here. And we start looking at the circumstances more than we do at God's promises. Wow. And because we do that, the more we look at the circumstances, the bigger they become, and the smaller God's promises over here become. Mm-hmm. But if we look at God's promises, instead of our circumstances, God's promises become bigger to us, and those circumstances become smaller to us. And on the plane that day, I should have been thinking of some of the promises of God's word. His word is so full of promises. And I should have been thinking of some of those promises, like Matthew 28:20 says, "Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world." So that kind of includes airplanes too, you know, bumpy
right.
airplanes and everything. But I wasn't thinking about God's promise in that moment. My fear, the circumstances, and the fear that those circumstances were bringing became bigger to me than God's promises. And that does happen in our life sometimes. And I always want to try to look more at God's promises. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes that's why it's good that we have Christian friends and things, because they can remind us of God's promises. When we get looking at our circumstances and all too much, they can bring us back to it and be like, hey, no, remember, what does God's word say about this?
Okay.
And there's another phrase, statement, verse here in the Bible that I really love when I think about this. But in the early church, in the book of Acts with the early church, they were trying to decide the issue of the salvation of the Gentiles and all those things and stuff. And in all those discussions, James made a statement in Acts chapter 15, verse 18. It says, "Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world." And I know that the context of that is the salvation of the Gentiles and everything, but those works are known unto God, but also the works that he is doing in our lives as well. I don't have it marked in here, but I think of Philippians 1:6, one of my favorite verses, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Christ. And so God is working, God has a good plan, and he's working it, and God is never out of control. We were just talking about something in the Bible yesterday. Caleb was ice skating and stuff, and we were talking, and we were just talking about the fact that it's never like God is like, oh, I'll pay attention to this person for a while. I hope you're okay over there.
Yeah.
No, he's like fully watching, not just watching, but aware and directing what is happening in all of our lives at any given time. God knows exactly what he is doing. So he knows what he's doing in my life. He knows what he's doing in your life. He knows what he's doing in your life. And so we just need to focus on God's promises instead of our circumstances, especially, at all the time, but especially in those times when it feels like everything is out of control. And really, we just need to ask God to remind us, to help us to smell bananas. Everything is out of control. Maybe today, and people who are watching today, you know, I don't know, of course we're pre-recording this, but I don't know what the folks watching today will have been facing today or will be facing in the future. But just to spiritually smell the bananas, just to know that God is in control and that he knows exactly what he is doing. That's what God taught me that day on the plane, and I just wanted to share that with you all today as well.
That's good. Stop and smell the bananas. We say stop and smell the roses. We're going to stop and smell the bananas.
Yes.
That's fantastic. It is so easy to magnify circumstances instead of the promises of God.
Absolutely.
And I love that. It's so vital to have good godly people around you, not to make you dive into your circumstances more and to agree with that. That's what we want, right? We want somebody to agree with us and, oh my goodness, yes, oh, that's just horrible. But I love the way my bestie put it the other day, just center you. Somebody that will center you, not on yourself and all that, your flesh.
Or not even on themselves.
Exactly,
but on God.
On God's word, God and God's word and his promises. Yes, that is fantastic. So stop and smell the bananas and the turbulence thing.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yes, we're glad you're okay with
yeah,
that.
me too.
Join us next week for special edition episode number 5 and number 2 with our very dear missionary, Miss Sarah Glover. Don't forget Lydia at 11 and her journey to remain cancer-free. Now go be amazing today.